All rise.
I want viewers watching my show to believe in themselves.
Judge Hatchett is compelling.
I was not the first one to throw a walk.
Let me just tell you what you just said.
Compassionate.
I really enjoy being a judge. Now I am touching people who I will never know I touched.
She's powerful.
You should have never let them walk out of your life when she was 3.
And she's on the bench.
Don't get me preaching up in here today.
Right.
You're watching The Verdict with Judge Hatchett. Gina Galloway is suing Nate Druid in the amount of $4,300. Ms. Galloway claims her daughter was promised a starting spot on her volleyball league and says her college options were limited after she was unfairly benched for a week.
Ms. Galloway, you are in court suing Mr. Druid. Is that right?
That's correct.
And you paid some $4,300 for your daughter to be involved with the volleyball team, the fees, all of that associated with her participation. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right, so tell me, start at the beginning. Tell me the situation, please.
Well, first of all, my daughter Francesca is an outstanding volleyball player. I have a history of volleyball, so I've pushed her very hard at the sport. She's been playing since she was 5. She's the co-captain now of her high school team. Right now in scouting season, we're trying to get her a placement within a college, maybe even a scholarship, and she was guaranteed a spot as her guaranteed position, the setter, and she has been benched for now up to 8 games. That's 2 tournaments, Your Honor.
Oh, let me hear from you, Mr. Druid. So you are responsible for these different teams. Is that correct?
That's correct, Your Honor.
And is it true that Miss Galloway's daughter was guaranteed a playing position on the team that she was on?
She was guaranteed a playing position provided her daughter did what she's supposed to be doing. She sent me an email. She had a problem with the coach in particular. And she wanted to transfer her daughter to another team because of this coach.
Okay, and what was her problem with the coach?
He benched her.
He benched her. And why did he bench her?
He benched her because she wasn't following. Well, there was a problem previously. She had a problem with another girl. I guess it was a tussle during
And she
practice.
was supposed to be benched for 1 game.
So was there a
Not 2
problem with
tournaments.
another player, Miss Galloway?
There was an accident that happened at one of the games where she was setting up for a ball, did not see in her vision the other player. And when they bumped, they got into a little scuffle, a little argument, if you will. He set them out, he spoke to them aside, and he said that she would be setting out 1 game.
So did both players have to sit out, or just your daughter?
I only saw my daughter sitting out, in fact.
So now we have that situation. She was supposed to sit out for 1 game, is that correct? Okay, so after that happened, what happened next?
Well, the problem, Your Honor, is we have very specific rules and guidelines with our league. Her mother directly encountered the coach. Now, by our bylaws, she has to wait a 24-hour period before she approaches the coach.
And I did that for a couple of games.
Wait. So if you have a problem, you have to wait 24 hours before you approach the coach. And Miss Galloway did not do that.
She didn't wait the first time, Your Honor, and by our bylaws, we had to suspend her daughter for a week.
For a week. And how many games are we talking about?
It's 4 games a week.
4 games
Well,
a
it's
week?
4 practices a week, and it's 1 tournament every 2 weeks.
She missed 2 tournaments, Your Honor.
So tell me what happened. What happened?
Well, like I said, she elbowed the girl by accident. They had their argument, their disagreement. The coach felt it was more her fault than the other player, so I guess that's why he allowed her to play in the tournaments.
Okay.
My daughter was sitting out for 2 tournaments. That's 8 games.
Well, I thought the rule was that she had to sit out for 1 game.
And that's what me and the coach discussed. That's exactly what we discussed, and so I don't
Mr. Druid, what
understand.
We play multiple games in a day.
Well, now there's a difference. If I'm benching a player for 1 game and there are 3 games in a day, it seems to me that the rules say you're going to sit out for 1 game, not 1 day.
The roster has to remain the same for each game during that day. So if she sits out the first game because of the penalty, she sits down. She sits out every subsequent game.
Now what's happening? Where are we now?
Well, I reach out to the coach. He has no real explanation as to why she's been sitting out thus long. That did go against exactly what we spoke about and how she was to be reprimanded for that one game, you know, for that one incident. And then it turns into 8 games. He had no reason as to why she was out still.
All right, so Mr. Joy, did you have a conversation with the coach?
Yes, I
with
did,
Francesca's coach?
Yes, I did. Yes,
All right,
I did.
and who's your witness today? Who is this? Come stand up, please. And what's your involvement in this case, sir?
I'm the coach.
All right, you're the coach.
Yeah.
What happened?
Coming up on The Verdict with Judge Hatchett.
He does not have that much experience. This is a pro league here. This is what prepares them to get seen by the scouts for college.
Then why did you put your daughter on the team?
And later,
As soon as I tried to go back into the traffic, that's when the accident occurred, and Mr. King just smashed into me in the very high speed, and ended up breaking 2 of my thumbs.
closed captioning provided by. If you'll be in the Los Angeles area and want to bring your case to court, call 1-888-552-6878. You're watching The Verdict with Judge Hatchett. The Verdict with Judge Hatchett is back with the case of Gina Galloway, who is suing Nate Druid for breach of contract.
How did that little scuffle end up being such that she didn't play for 8 games? That's what I'm trying to understand. What happened?
Well, that kind of, I don't know if that kind of made the mom more mad, and then she started getting a little bit more involved with my coaching. So that's why I put her out for the first tournament, is because the parents, if they break that 24-hour rule, like trying to coach alongside me and give me tips, then the rule is they're out for the whole
Well, somebody
tournament.
has to give you tips because you're not coaching the players. I see you chatting with all the other gals, and I have a gym. I brought a gym to you, and you leave her on the bench time and time again, and it's ridiculous.
Let me
There's
hear
no
from you,
sense.
Francesca. What's going on, honey?
Thank you, Your Honor. So what's going on is when we first tried out about a year ago, I had many other teams I could have gone with, but I went with this team because—
And why did you go with this team?
Well, because the coach, he definitely was very involved with me. He said, "You're the best setter I've ever seen." He encouraged me quite a ton, but when it came time for our first game in practice, he wasn't strategic. He wasn't technically giving me pointers on how to be a better player.
All right, so let's back up. So for those of you who don't know what a setter is you actually put the ball up for another player then to smack it over the net.
Yes.
So a setter may not be the person who scores, but the setter is extremely important because without the setter, right, Coach?
Yes.
You can't set the ball up to score. So did you think that she was a really good setter?
Yeah, I thought she was really good. I also, when I'm meeting the players and trying to get them to sign up, I'm super positive, and which I always am, but like, I just want them to kind of like, you know.
So bottom line it for me.
Yeah.
What in the world went wrong?
I think if they would have stayed in the league for the rest of the season, she could have been, she could have gotten better and kept practicing.
Well, why would
But,
we
yeah.
stay? I'm just trying to understand. Why would you stay in the league if you've been benched for 8 games for what you have said to me was a minor incident?
Your Honor, my understanding is it has to do with an attitude problem. The defendant paid $4,300 to put her daughter in this league. Her daughter definitely has talent. There's no question about that.
You know, honestly, he does not have that much experience. This is a pro league here. This is what prepares them to get seen by the scouts for college.
Well, then why did you put your daughter on the team?
You know, I was convinced and had heard from other mothers that this was an awesome league, that this was great preparation for them, that they have got scouted, they got college time.
Mr. Druid, did the mother come to you and say, "I'm not happy with this coach, may I move my daughter to another team"? Did she ask you that?
Yes, she did.
And what was your response?
My response is our bylaws do not allow it.
Why not?
It has to be missing the term here right now, but it has to be a very good reason for it. The fact that she did not get along with the coach is not a good reason.
Your Honor?
So how can this be resolved? And then I'm going to rule on this case.
I feel like this is a classic case of where they're working with contracts and not people. And how this could be resolved is merely giving my mom back the money she invested into this so we can invest it into something else and someone else who could get me the scouting preparation that I need and the exposure that I need.
Mr. Jewett, is there anything we can do to resolve this before I rule on this?
Your Honor, the only thing I can do to resolve this is if she puts her daughter back in the league again the following season, because this season is already over.
Clearly.
Okay? I will waive any fees for her to participate in the league that season, and I will guarantee in writing that her daughter will play in at least half of the games.
Now, what I'm going to do, given the fact that Mr. Jewett has been, I think, very reasonable in this situation, the season's over, I can't do anything about this, but if you will waive the fees and then give Francesca another coach, then I am going to suspend judgment in this case to allow there to be a time to work it out. But Ms. Galloway, you've got to let the coaches coach. And that is what I think needs to happen. Mr. Jewett, I'm going to take you at your word. I am going to suspend this, Officer Harvey. I'm going to delay judgment on this case, pending the fact that Mr. Jewett is going to do exactly what he's done. And if not, we're going to recalendar this, and you're going to be back in my courtroom. Do we understand?
Absolutely.
But for right now, I am not going to enter judgment against you on behalf of the plaintiff because I want to give you an opportunity to make this right. But both of you have to work together. You have got to be a parent, and you've got to let them coach. And I need you all to be fair in the way that this young girl is being treated. Are we clear on this? All right, in that matter, judgment will be suspended based on what I've just said. You all may be excused.
All rise.
Judge Hatchett has asked the two parties to try and work it out and has suspended judgment until further notice.
So I respect the judge's ruling. I just still don't have faith in the league. You'll just have to prove it to me.
Well, I'm sorry you feel that way, but I will keep my word.
Coming up.
As soon as I tried to go back into the traffic, that's when the accident occurred, and Mr. King just smashed into me in the very high speed and ended up breaking two of my thumbs.
Closed captioning provided by. You're watching The Verdict with Judge Hatchett. Alex Ivanovich is suing Dan King in the amount of $5,200. Mr. Ivanovich claims Mr. King was snowboarding recklessly and says he broke his thumbs after colliding with the defendant while skiing.
Hi, Alex, you're suing for $5,200, and this is a result of what I understand to be a skiing accident. What happened?
That's right. Well, today I'm in the court because Mr. King injured me physically and financially.
How so?
It was about 1 year early last year where I decided to go on a trip with my friends to Utah Mountains and basically ski for the first time on a sort of a bigger mountains. And
have you had experience as a skier?
I've had about, I have several weeks of experience, several weekends I've been practicing before going to that particular mountain where the accident occurred.
But not on this level of skiing.
Yeah, that was the first time. There were different levels over there. There were the one mountain that I practiced before going to that particular where the accident took place, called the Green Slope. It's basically a beginner level mountain where people ski and snowboard in order to really gain experience before going to that higher, more experienced level mountain called the Blue Slope. So I was going down the mountain and I realized there were a lot of people over there. There was a high volume of skiers and snowboarders, and a lot of snow was going directly to my goggles. So I had to smoothly move to the side of this mountain and just to clean my goggles. And as soon as I tried to go back into the traffic, that's when the accident occurred, and Mr. King just smashed into me in the very high speed and ended up breaking two of my thumbs.
Coming up.
I made my line, like my decision, to avoid him. And then as I'm on that path, he started up and just went right into my lane of traffic.
Closed captioning provided by. You're watching The Verdict with Judge Hatchett. The Verdict with Judge Hatchett is back with the case of Alex Ivanovich, who is suing Dan King for medical expenses.
From your perspective, you're on the mountain.
I'm on the mountain. As a novice snowboarder, I have like a lot of mindfulness for my speed, and I was scanning up ahead and I do see somebody who's sitting stationary. I made my line, like my decision, to avoid him, and then as I'm on that path, he started up and like just got up and started going and just went right into my lane of traffic. And you know, he didn't even have a lane. I was staying in my lane.
It seems to me that if you are trying to merge, it would be very similar to merging into traffic if you were driving a car.
You know, it's a very fast environment. There's no people walking. It was just people sliding in a very high speed. So it was a matter of seconds. And because Mr. King was moving so fast, I really couldn't even notice him. It was just a split second.
Now, you were a witness to all of this. Can you please join us?
Thank you, Your Honor.
So tell me from your perspective what you observed. What happened?
I was on the mountain that day and I saw the accident happen ahead of me. I was a little bit higher on the mountain, Your Honor. Mr. King was kind of making slalom, carving the mountain, as we say. And Mr. Ivanovich, who was skiing, had pulled to the side and was re-entering the traffic, and that day was very, very busy. So it was almost like the intersection of the two was unavoidable. So while Mr. King was making a turn and Mr. Ivanovich was coming back into the traffic, they just collided very hardly. It was very painful to watch.
Judge Hatchett's verdict when we return. Promotional consideration provided by. You're watching The Verdict with Judge Hatchett.
This was truly an accident, that this wasn't something that Dan could have avoided. Is that a fair assessment?
I would be honest with you, Your Honor. I believe both skiers did not belong to the blue square rope.
I don't disagree with the witness here because it sounds like the both of you all were probably over your heads, but I also know that you have to get out and explore and test your limits. But let's be clear that we have to do it in a responsible way. I am not convinced that Dan King was responsible that I should make him responsible for these injuries. I am so sorry that you got hurt. But you know, I am not going to enter judgment for $5,200 in this matter. But let there be a lesson here that you need to be more careful. You need to be more experienced, and maybe going back to the other mountain and getting more experience might be the wise thing to do before you graduate to the higher mountain. For the reasons that I've stated, I am denying the plaintiff's claim for $5,200. We'll stand adjourned.
All rise.
Judge Hatchett has ruled in favor of the defendant. The plaintiff's claim has been denied.
I still think you're responsible.
I'm sorry you got hurt, but maybe skiing just isn't for you.
This has been a production of Entertainment Studios.